I tell myself I can't do anything, I'm turning history into her story here tonight. Oh, oh. If we only got one life, we gotta live it right. We're the mothers and daughters, sisters and queens. If we lift up each other, we can achieve anything. We're the ones who are gonna make the change. We're the ones who are gonna flip the page. Spread love like rings in the water. Yeah, that's the power of a woman. We'll raise our voices until we are heard. We won't stop. Turn up the volume till we change the world. We didn't come this far to not reach the stars. So let's begin by turning history into her story. It's enough. Oh, oh. If we only got one life, we gotta live it right now. We're the mothers and daughters, sisters and queens. If we lift up each other, we can achieve anything. We're the ones who are gonna make a change. We're the ones who are gonna flip the page. Spread love like rings in the water. Yeah, that's the power of women. We got the power, we got the power. We got the power, we got the power, we got the power. Oh, tonight we're gonna ride our names across the sky, so they'll know the power of woman. Sisters and queens, sisters and queens. We can achieve anything. We're the ones who are gonna make the change. We're the ones who are gonna flip the page. Spread love like rings in the water. Yeah, that's the power. We got 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 the power. Oh, tonight we're gonna ride our names across the sky, so they'll know the power of women.
Dear friends, today I stand before you inside this digital screen with an immense sense of gratitude and hope. Gratitude for the remarkable individuals, both women and men, who have come together to make this moment possible. And hope for the transformative impact we can collaborate and create together. Welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference, a platform designed to amplify the voices of women, foster unity among women and men, and drive meaningful change on a both personal and a global scale. This conference is the culmination of a vision that has been nurtured by countless individuals who came before us, who believed in the power of collaboration, balance, and a sense of peace and well-being that is now passing on the torch for us to step up and take this forward. As we embark on this journey together, I want to share a fundamental truth that has guided us from the very beginning, and that is love and compassion. Love and compassion knows no boundaries. It transcends gender, age, geography, and all backgrounds. It's a force that has the potential to shape peaceful societies, redefine norms, and inspire generations to put the well being of ourselves, our loved ones, and the planet at the forefront. Our topic of this conference is the power of women. When you hear the words, you might think, is it just for women? And no, it's actually for all of us. We all share one relationship in common. We all have a mother that carried the seed of life inside her womb and delivered us to this world. I always like to say, every king is born out of a woman. But let's not forget, in order for a woman to give birth, you need a man to give the seed of life so she can nurture it within her. That means we need each other to form life. We need each other to come to existence. And that is why our underlying three principles of action are reflection, recognition, and resolution. Let's begin by reflecting on the objective truths that extend far beyond our personal feelings and emotions. Let's reflect on ourselves and our relationships with each other. Let's reflect to become aware of our actions and behavior and taking accountability for ourselves. Recognize. Let's recognize our own selves with respect, love, and let's recognize the importance of extending that same respect and love to others. And let's recognize us humans are social beings and that we are sharing this Mother Earth with billions of other beings, and extending that same respect, love, and compassion to them is crucial. Let's realize we all have a right to live out our best selves and coexist without harming or hurting each other. Resolution. Let's show up and resolve whatever conflict that is taking place. Always look at what can be better. We all understand things have not been perfect lately. We all have been feeling something is off. A sense of imbalance. We are all walking around on eggshells, afraid to be ourselves, blaming the outside world, feeling helpless, misunderstood, hopeless. We can dwell on what is wrong, or we can be truthful to ourselves by reflecting and recognizing we are all going through our own struggles as individuals and as a society, and come together to resolve whatever it may be that is not working out anymore. Ask ourselves the question, what are we looking for? Whether you're a man, a woman, a trans, non-binary, rich, poor, old, young, or whatever you are, what are you looking for at the core of it all? What do you want to get out of life? What is your point of existence? I will go first. Ultimately, I'm looking for peace of mind and well-being for myself, my loved ones, and a healthy, safe environment to live in. We all do anything in life, even chasing happiness, hoping to find peace eventually. And that peace really goes hand in hand with our overall well-being. And that is why we are here today, at this point in time, at the Power of Women Digital Conference. We have lost a sense of balance in life. There's so much tension around us. Lots of talk about the climate crisis, the economic turmoil. And we have lost a sense of solidarity among each other and trying to find solutions by ourselves while carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. and our need for balance couldn't be any more relevant. During this conference, we're exploring three major themes that apply to both you and I, regardless of where or who you are in life. Each theme has a sub-theme, and they are 7 areas of well-being, 5 P's of the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and 8 sectors that contribute to a culture of peace. The 7 areas of well-being are psychological, physical, social, economical, emotional, spiritual, and environmental well-being. 5 P's of the 17 UN SDG goals are people, peace, partnerships, prosperity, and planet. The peace wheel that consists of 8 sectors that symbolize the pathway to develop a culture of peace are 1. Governance, law, security. 2. Education and media. 3. Economics and business. 4. Health and relationships. 5. Science and technology. 6. Religion and spiritual teachings. 7. Environment and habitat. And lastly, culture. Let's take a moment to reflect and take a moment to remember. We all need sunlight, healthy food, sanitary water, and most of all, clean air to breathe. We fundamentally need the same elements to exist, no matter who we are or where we come from. Whether we realize it or not, we all share the same needs. And it's time to recognize and find a common ground and establish a shared mission for humanity where each of us can take accountability and show up for ourselves and collaborate with each other to find resolutions. Instead of trying to change the world or change others, let's hold ourselves accountable to change for ourselves for the better. And when every individual takes this responsibility for our own self, that reflects the collective change the world so desperately needs. The power of women is a starting point to reflect on our current situations of the world, where female perspective is not fully incorporated into our decision-making processes. We all have both masculine and feminine energy within us that transcends our biological sex and the sociology of gender roles. We have been accepting and living in a world that has been heavily operating on masculine tendencies. But it is time to align ourselves from inside out to accept both masculine and feminine energies within us so it can reflect in our world. Power of Women is the evolution of the women's movement, changing the view of demanding or granting equality to recognizing and embracing the strengths of women so we can come together in a safe space where we are all respected, loved, and given the space to bring our best selves to each other. At the heart of this conference is the belief that there needs to be a cultural shift that broadens our current perspective. Music, media, arts, and entertainment are constantly shaping our worldview. And that is why we're focusing on edutainment, which is a combination of education and entertainment to use the power of storytelling to shift the current narrative to enlighten, engage, and empower with wholesome contents. Content, experiences, and events to be the catalyst that broadens our current perspectives. This cannot be done in a day or by ourselves. We have to come together. And to do this for ourselves and our loved ones. Do this for our mothers, fathers, brothers, and sisters, and most of all, for ourselves to find inner peace of mind and well-being for all. Throughout the next few days, we will explore a range of critical topics, from women in leadership to gender balance, from environmental leadership to storytelling for positive transformation. We are here to start a conversation together. We will hear from renowned leaders, experts, and visionaries who have dedicated their lives to creating a more equitable world. Let's come together with an open heart, an open mind, knowing we may not have all the answers, but together we can find solutions by collaborating. And let's also remember, the impact of this conference extends far beyond the next 48 hours. It's an impact that will resonate long after our virtual stages go dark. The true legacy of this event will be the rippling effects. As each one of us take what we learn and apply in our lives, families, communities, and beyond. With that, I want to thank each of you for being a part of this incredible journey. Your presence here today and your commitment for a better world is a testament to the collective spirit that drives us forward. So let's embark on this journey, this transformational experience together. Let's embrace the power of balance, well-being, and most of all, peace, not just for ourselves, but for all of humanity and our precious planet. The time has come for all of us to take action. And remember, if not us, then who? Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Power of Women Digital Summit, running in parallel with the G20 Summit out of India. Can you imagine this particular era that we're in, where there's a need for such an interior dialogue, for us to be able to see what's happening in our minds and understand what's happening in our hearts? Life is moving so fast, and I believe there's no other time in history that we have the resources that we have today. That means there should not be any abuse, lack, poverty, famine, violence. So what is going on? What is happening in our minds and in our hearts that we're not able to somehow express the divinity that we were born with? Our opening summit today has this beautiful, fragrant voice of a spiritual leader who I've had the fortune of knowing since I was a teenager. Brahma Kumari's sister Jayanti, who is a spiritual pillar of the Brahma Kumaris movement. It is a movement of men and women and over 1 million volunteers in 110 countries with approximately 9,000 branches of people who are turning inwards to try to reconcile, try to purify, try to find clarity in their own minds so that they can bring harmony and peace to the planet. And who better to open our summit than with Brahma Kumari's sister Jayanti. Sister Jayanti, thank you so much for joining us today. And nothing would give us a greater pleasure than for you to open us up with a blessing, a meditation, a prayer for our conference, and to perhaps get some tips from you into how can we make the world a better place. Thanks again for joining us.
Namaste and a greeting of peace. Om Shanti to everyone who's attending this POW, Power of Women digital event. It's wonderful that this is happening in conjunction with the G20. And my hope is that the vibrations of this event will reach across the oceans to India and will influence all the people who have gathered there. Let's begin with just sitting quietly. And I'll share my own thoughts as I reflect and invite you to follow these ideas yourself in your mind in silence. I take a deep breath. And in this awareness, I go deep into myself. deeper and deeper until I connect with the inner being that I am. Once I accept this inner being, I find that still point that lies within. And when I do that, I recognize that not only is peace my inner quality, but it's also the gateway to love, truth, joy, and even purity. A fresh, clear state of consciousness where I can watch what's going on in the world, and I watch with compassion, but yet also detachment. I see indecision. I see the power that lies within human minds and how this inner power can transform the world. And I see the injustice. And I decide that with power from above, the power of the divine, I wish to send God's light and God's love not only to the whole planet, but also all the parts that haven't yet been accessed. And with the divine as my companion, I can observe the light of the divine reaching out across the world, the light of truth, the light of wisdom, the light of love. And this power of truth, of love, and compassion are the feminine side of the divine. And these feminine qualities are truly what the world needs now, so that there can be justice again. Justice for all, so that together we create a better world for all. Om Shanti.
Thank you. It seems so easy, Sister Genti, when we spend more time behind our eyes and use those inner resources for the common good. Before we come to a close of our time, I wanted to really ask you just one or two questions. Brahma Baba, who founded the Brahma Kumaris, someone that you met, someone that you knew intimately. My question for you and for our audience is, what do you think Brahma Baba recognized or realized in the 30s that he risked his life to empower women in those days? What do you think he saw inside himself that opened him up to just empowering women all over the world? What was it that you saw in him that took that step of courage?
It was God's love that was shining in Brahma Baba's heart. But when you have love for God and you're experiencing love from God, then immediately your heart goes out to the human race and you connect with all the beings who are the beings of the one family of humanity. And you want the best for all of them. And then you suddenly remember that there's a whole group of people who have been termed second-class citizens, and so they have no rights at all. And so that was the stimulus for him to continue with his teachings that were coming from up above. He was a channel for that. But he knew that it was important to continue as an instrument so that more and more women could come to recognize their own inner capacity and be able to develop it and use that to serve humanity.
Did you recognize while growing up with Brahma Baba and the women that he was training or teaching or guiding, did you notice that they were struggling with believing in the high vision that God gave through him for them to see themselves? Because one of the things I've been observing in our generation is sometimes a woman is just, she's not seeing how worthy and capable and powerful she is. And I'm not sure if it's because she's just not been given that window of opportunity to keep seeing that. So while you were growing with these incredibly powerful women that we call the daddies today, did you notice that it took them time to recognize within themselves their worth, their value?
I think the first step for them was to be totally detached from the body that they were born into. And they were trained to experience what we call soul consciousness. And so Baba reminded them, you are not bodies, you are souls. And the soul is a radiant spark of light. It's infinitesimal, no length, no width, no breadth, no height, and yet it's real, it exists. And Baba reminded them, you are the immortal, eternal soul, and your original state is that of purity and peace. And at some point in human history, you were the Shaktis who were able to vanquish the demons, the devils, and a better world was established. And so he spoke to them on this level. First, the awareness of the inner being, the detachment from the physical body, so that then there was no sense of being deprived of anything in any way, because everything was then available for them. And available from deep within, not on an external level. And when they began to discover these treasures within themselves, then yes, they were able to give respect to each other and stay in harmony together for about 12 years. It was quite something, put a few women together and probably they'll end up backbiting or criticizing. And that's not just women, but it's human nature at the moment. But when you have time, that's what people tend to do. But Brahma Baba made sure that their thoughts, their ideas were filled with greater and greater awareness of the spiritual dimension, which included this concept of a better world, a new world, but that it could only happen if they could cooperate together. And the story in India goes that there was a mountain where there were a lot of robbers and nasty things happening. And some people wanted to turn things around. And so they were told, each of you can give a little finger. That's it. That's all you need to do. But when they all gave their little finger in cohesion, in collaboration with each other, and just a little finger, and the mountain could be lifted. So that's an incredible story that always sparks me, because today I might think I'm alone. There's nobody else to share these ideas with. But no, you have a big, unlimited family that's there to support you. And I'm sure you'll get the phone number in just a minute. But whoever it is who's able to see this program, I hope that you carry away this inspiration that I am that inner being of light and I shine. And yes, we have to do things on the external level in terms of our roles of gender. But again, people living in their homes, their families, and yet coming every single day, whether it's to your Peace Palace in Washington or whether it's any other center anywhere in the world. And as soon as they come in, they feel a sense of peace, a sense of calm, because the vibrations are such. And so what we have to do is not just create vibrations like that for one house or one home, but we have to be instrumental in working together to create that better world by displaying the qualities that we've imbibed within ourselves and share those with others, not by preaching, but simply by being.
Beautiful, beautiful. Does the same law apply to souls in male bodies? Because so many of us have women support groups. But what about our souls in male bodies? Does the same practice apply to them? Because how did Brahma Baba look at a woman and just realize that he wanted to raise them up in order to make the planet a better place? And in the world today, there are women that are still oppressed by men. Does the same law apply to men too?
Absolutely. And we're very fortunate that within our organization, although it's women who are the teachers, the leaders, the administrators running the organization, but we also have wonderful men who support us and do whatever is needed in terms of admin and teaching and so on. And so, yes, the better world can only come when it's both together, working together to create that better world. And so definitely when a person who, I'll put it a bit differently, when a person who's in a masculine body comes to the awareness that I'm a soul, then in that vision of soul, that soul is a bride of God, a beautiful image that comes in with all the mystics and yogis. And so whether I'm a bride or whether I'm a powerful warrior, whichever image it is I like to use, but all souls in female or masculine bodies, everyone is a soul and everyone carries all these qualities, the goodness of the masculine and the goodness of the feminine. And what I have to do individually is to emerge both aspects, and then we can all work together to make such a wonderful world happen.
Sounds so easy coming through your lips. And I know that it is. One last question. You've been on this journey in the Brahma Kumaris for over 50, almost 60 years now. So you've grown in a body of consciousness that has consistently focused on the empowerment of the individual. What is it that you are doing that has not only helped you to stay consistent and true, but you've opened and allowed yourself to be used to keep uplifting anyone? Doesn't matter their caste, their creed, their color. Wherever you go, you uplift people. What is it that you have learned in these 50 plus years of your service to humanity that we need to learn so that we can become similar?
I think it's a question of faith. I believe that when I have the faith that I'm more than just this body, I'm actually the inner being of light, the soul, then that's not just the first step of the journey, but it's a step that sustains you through your whole journey, whatever ups and downs may come, whether the ups and downs are from within or from without. And so I think this practice that actually leads that faith to develop more and more. Well, who am I? What am I? What is it that I carry within myself? The good and the not so good. That faith that truly this is who I am is that which has carried me to this point.
Beautiful. Sister Genti, thank you so much for your words of wisdom, your presence. And we couldn't be happier than to have you open our Power of Women Digital Summit. Thanks so much.
Thank you for the opportunity and all good wishes for the success of the event.
Thank you. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti.
Power of Women embodies collaboration through edutainment across diasporas through the collectives alliances that support positive global change.
And here we are. Hi, Shanali.
Hi, Ashley. We did it.
We are here. And hello, greetings to all of you who are watching us and watching our programming today. Welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference, everyone.
Thank you. And yeah, welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference. And Ashley and I are excited to be here. And thank you so much. We see some of you already online sending beautiful comments. So thank you so much.
It's such a special day, such a special 48 hours that we have prepared for you all. And we wanted to come on live to first and foremost extend greetings and love to everybody, all of our supporters who have helped get us to this point. And we want to talk today about just holding space, this concept of holding space, which is really the essence behind the Power of Women Digital Conference. It is truly a place for all of us to come together as one, to have conversations, to hold a safe space for all of us to discuss different themes and topics that are pressing at this point in time. So with my pal sister here, Shanali, who is the founder of Power of Women, we would like to share a little bit more behind our motivation and drive for putting this conference together. I want to ask Shanali a couple of questions to get it started. Shanali, because she is what they call in the East, in Eastern traditions, the Shakti energy behind the Power of Women. So Shanali, what drove you to bring us all together?
I think, Ashley, thank you, by the way. I think you're a Shakti too. Like Sister Jenna always says, we're all Shaktis coming together. And that's the power of women. And when we started the digital conference, I have to say, Ash, you have been my power girl always, my partner in service for more than half of my life. So when we talk about creating a space, holding space, you have always inspired me. When we are allowed a space to be ourselves, bring our best version without judgment, I mean, you can really thrive. And I have experienced it myself. And I mean, that's why our partners in service, I mean, our partnership is able to even do what we are doing. And I want to ask you as well, because you picked the question, you picked the topic. What does it mean to hold space? So we both can answer this. For me, holding space is what you have always provided. And it extends beyond that at this point, because after the pandemic happened, some shift happened, something happened. Nobody's really talking about the traumatic experience we all went through. And when we really look at each other. We are kind of walking on eggshells all the time. We're not talking about how we're feeling. And the truth is, I feel like everybody's going through so much, no matter what we see on social media or whatever we see. I feel like everybody's going through something inside. I mean, we wouldn't know because not a lot of people talk about it. I have been fortunate enough. I have a good foundation of people that gives me the space, so I can do things like this. And truly, I mean, we are two ordinary people. We realize this is a space that's missing, and for me, finding out, okay, G20 is happening, and I'm this is about really global leadership, and how come we are not a part of this conversation? I have the passion, I am willing to take action, and I have a vision. How come we are really not a part of this conversation, although it's impacting all of us? And it's not to point fingers. Honestly, it is what it is. Things have been happening. What can we do without pointing fingers, without trying to find what's wrong? What can we do to actually support or bring solutions? And just that alone, when I spoke to you and my group of my confidants, I think so much support has been given to me always with whatever I come up with or whatever I want to do. You all have been so supportive. So really extending that space so we can actually have real conversations, and we can go explore about this more, because I think this entire segment is about why are we doing what we are doing, and what can you expect? And one of the main things, before I let you, I'm going to ask you the same question, by the way. We talk like this every day. So I think one of the most important things for us to remember is every person that's watching right now, or you going to see it later when you watch this. Are we really having the space to really express how we are feeling? And are we able to actually have a discussion without feeling offended or being very sensitive about things? How about if we create a space where you can actually bring yourself, share your perspectives, not trying to impose your perspectives, but being accepted for your perspectives, at the same time recognizing we are working with the collective. I mean, humans, I feel like we are meant to be social creatures. We are not meant to be working in silos, which is kind of what has happened in this digital age. What can we really do when we come together, really give each other that space? So I will go into it, but I want us to have this discussion. So why did you choose this topic today? And tell me, what does it mean to be holding space? Because you do that so well.
Well, that's what we're doing with this conference. It's really, how do we all come together and explore the different themes that we'll all have the pleasure of tuning into. But when I really think about a safe space, I come from a place of within myself. What does it mean to hold the space for myself, right? And at this point in time, there's so much going on, and you said it so well with regards to the pandemic. Are we even taking a moment to process what's happened to us at a global scale? Giving ourselves the space to understand what are the impacts to our lives at the macro and micro level. Are we giving ourselves that space? Are we having these type of conversations with our loved ones, with people in the workplace? We're carrying so much at this point in time. And that's what this conference is about. How do we open it up for everybody to feel included in these conversations? We're in collaboration with the C20, which is an official engagement group of G20. And through this weekend, they're going to have a conversation at the global leadership level about the economy and policies. How are these policies impacting our lives? We're just regular people, like anybody watching this. And what was our drive to bring this together? It was really, we took a step back and realized what is going on? What is going on in my life? What is impacting me in my life? And we decided to take action. We decided to take action because we want our voices to be heard, because there's a lot going on that we are not processing and nobody's talking about it. So that's really the drive for this conference.
And I love when you say action, because we're going to have a panel later on with our Olympians, former Olympians and gold medalists, and it's going to be led by Marilyn King. Hi, MGD. One of the things she always says is the Olympian mindset. When you have a vision and you take action and it's driven with passion, I mean, there's nothing you can't do. And that's the Olympian mindset. And I think that's what really allowed us to do. I mean, before you and I found out that through her, I mean, this is one of the things I've always lived by. And I was taught by my brother, you know, and I think that's so important. When we started this, I mean, we decided to run in parallel to the G20. I looked at the leadership that was attending the G20 summit that's actually going to be arriving tomorrow for the summit. They already started arriving in India, Delhi. There were only 2 female leaders out of the 20. That's the G20 countries plus 19 countries plus European Union that was coming together. And I felt like it's okay as long as there's a balance of perspective. Are we really getting to share our perspective into this space? I mean, when we talk about the economy is actually something that really is tied into all other areas of well-being. I mean, the 7 areas of well-being we are covering, we are all going through something. We don't know how to pinpoint it. People, you know, the digital space especially, it was supposed to connect us, but I feel like now it's disconnecting us. And not to say that it's the most amazing, like, it's a great tool. I mean, we are able to connect right now from around the world. And the beautiful thing is, one of the quotes I love to use all the time is about electricity. Electricity can cook a man a meal or light up the room, or it can also cook the man by electrifying the man. So it's a matter of how we decide to use it. And I think the digital space was meant to bring everyone together, especially social media. But for some reason, people have really isolated themselves behind a screen. And we're not really talking to each other. We are just looking at each other from a distance through a screen, not really communicating, just putting up a facade through the reels and the highlights we post. And that connection is lost. And humans are meant to be social beings. I mean, that's why our brain has this chemical that it produces when we hug somebody. It produces oxytocin. That's because we are meant to be social beings. We are not meant to be separated from each other. And I think that's why we need to have that safe space. And of course, you and I won't be able to just do it ourselves. We have started. And we need every single one of you. And I think that's very important to keep in mind. We don't have all the answers. I think that's something we want to emphasize, but together we can find solutions. And that's really important for us to realize. I mean, we are, like Ashley said, we are 2 ordinary girls. And we decided to do this because somebody's got to do it. I mean, we couldn't find this space anywhere else where it just opened up. I mean, G20 summits like G20 are very exclusive, behind closed doors. And the fact that G20 and G20 is in India this year, I think that was something very unique and different that happened. Maybe it's the Indian culture, the heritage that brought the unique inclusiveness of, or rather the practices of Sanskrit, ancient Sanskrit. Not to say that, I mean, there's so much division still with caste system and whatnot, but that ancient knowledge was brought in. And even C20, which the chair is Ammaji, that female leadership, she's so inclusive. She made it very inclusive where people like us with a vision, the passion, and taking action could be a part of doing something. And what we decided to do was, instead of just really keeping it like on-ground, in-person event, we really just opened it up to the global audience. We just wanted all of you to be a part of it. And really, let's have a conversation. We might not realize where to start, but let's really look at it. I mean, there's a climate crisis happening. It is very scary. I mean, this is the first summer that nobody can deny what is happening in the world. It's really scary. I was traveling through London, Turkey, Greece, and now I'm in Sri Lanka right now at the moment. It was really hot, and the locals are saying it has not been like this before. So there's something happening, and we can continue to look around for somebody to come around and be the savior, or I mean, if not, we're just going to come together because the space is available and have a discussion. And that's what it's meant to do, that open the conversation. Let's get started somewhere. And women are notorious for being that inclusive figures, nurturing, compassion, love. Not that it's exclusive to women, but at least we have to get started somewhere, and we have to start somewhere. So let's highlight and create that space. So yeah.
Cool. And when we talk about female leadership, the objective, of course, of Power of Women is to really inspire that innate femininity that is power within all of the women everywhere. And what does that mean? That's something that we're going to explore throughout this conference, but talking about it right now in conversation, what it means is having this ability to actually take action for yourself, for your family, for your community, for the environment. Have that courage, because your voice matters. Our voices matter. Our contributions matter. And you're going to see so many different women throughout this conference sharing their insights, trailblazing across so many different fields. And this is really the contribution that we lend to the world, to the economy, to the society. And that's really what we want to highlight, because we believe that as Einstein, Shanali loves this quote, as Einstein so famously said, we can't, and I'm going to butcher the quote. So if you want to say, Shanali, we cannot solve a problem using the same. Go ahead. You know this.
No, please. I think you had it. Go for it.
We cannot solve a problem using the same mindset. I butchered the
We
quote.
cannot solve a problem from the same mindset it was created.
Thank you. Yes, so you catch my drift there. But essentially, we believe that bringing up more female voices and more female representation and leadership roles and just across diverse fields is really going to create that balance that is going to help us achieve peace and well-being for all. So that's our aim with the Power of Women.
I love that. I want to add something, Ashley, because I mean, not because you butchered the quote, but one of the things about our relationship too, I think I have been hearing, I mean, especially lately, some people have asked me, hey, why do women cannot be trusted, or women are jealous of each other, or competitive? To be honest, I have met women like that, actually people like that. But for some reason, I mean, I have been so blessed to be surrounded by incredible women. I mean, this one right here, really, that's that supportive figures. I mean, I think when we talk about female leadership, these are the conversations. Plus, we want to be an example. I mean, we might not be perfect, but we want to set an example of these friendships are possible. These relationships are possible with each other, with our mothers, with our fathers, our brothers. It's really important that we start highlighting what we want to start experiencing in the world. Like if you start watching the news and it's going to show us all these things that's wrong in the world, when are we really going to have the time to really appreciate the world? That's why we have to be solution driven. And that's why the 3 R's, reflect. Let's start reflecting who we are. And then recognize each other, recognize our own self. I think that's so important. Do you even recognize your own self? And are you waiting for others to recognize you? Do you give yourself that self-respect? asking these questions through reflection and really being solution driven, being taking that resolution kind of approach by collaborating. And when we talk about leadership, female leadership, I want to say the Power of Women Conference, how it has come together. We have both, I think it's safe to say 50-50. I'm not exactly, but there's 50% men and 50% women who came together to put this conference. And that's the beautiful thing, when you hear the word power of women, you're like, oh, it's just for women. No, power of women is, look at your own mother. Giving birth, I'm sure is not it's considered to be one of the hardest things or one of the most painful experiences a human can experience. We have to really start recognizing where we come from, going back to the root or the seed that is going back to the mother, and really start thinking, what does that leadership represent? And when we are bringing these women together, it's really to start a conversation, to broaden the perspective. And we're using one of our themes. We're using edutainment, that's music, media, and entertainment, and the arts, whether we like it or not. These are the silent reinforcers of society. Everything we see while we're strolling on social media, the billboards, to the movies we watch, the music we hear, it's constantly feeding a certain way we see the world. Is it working for us? We have to start reflecting again. Are we blindly consuming these content? So we want to create content that's wholesome, experiences, and events like this, the Power of Women Digital Conference, to really start taking a step back and start realizing, hey, what is going on? Broadening our narrative, broadening our perspective so we can understand each other. And we also have to always remember, this is something I learned with my friendship with Ashley. When we show up, when we ask for a good friendship, are we willing to give that to somebody? Are we willing to give somebody the space to be heard? Are we willing to listen to someone if you want to be heard? These are things, we can all go around blaming people or saying this and that, but are we willing to give that to somebody, extend that to somebody so they can reciprocate? I think we have to always look at ourselves instead of looking externally to find the solutions, going internal, understanding self, and from there, coming out. And that space, Ashley so beautifully said, are you giving yourself that space to be who you are? Do you really love yourself? Not just the sake, just like putting on makeup or dressing up. No, do you really honor yourself? Do you really give yourself the space to bring out the best in you? And just this conference alone, we had so many, not so many, I wouldn't say so many. There were some people who said, why are you doing it in parallel to the G20? Oh, that's very bold, to all of that. It is. I would say it is. But I think if we wait till we have all the experiences, and by the way, this is our very first conference. So we have never done this before. We just, a group of people came because everybody believed in us. And we really just wanted to do this because we really believed in it. And if we were to wait till we had the experience of 15 years of putting up multiple conferences, when is that going to happen? That's literally half of my life when I was a teenager that I have to spend getting experiences. Are we really waiting till we are much older to do these things? And I think these are very important things for us to start thinking about. And I think that's why, and I want to recognize, by the way, when I said half and half men and women who helped us, it was really everybody coming together because this is needed. It is not because this is something we're doing because it's fun or we want to feel good. It's something that we really kind of, Ashley, you can speak for yourself as well. We were really pushed to do this. It's almost like we had to show up and really do this because it's time.
Yeah, I resonate a lot with what you said, and I want to go back to the point of edutainment, because what do we mean by wholesome content? We have knowledge that exceeds our intellect. We are able to process information through our bodies. We're able to process through the heart. And it is our aim that with wholesome content in the form of edutainment, we are able to ignite this healing process that we need, that many of us need, just given what we're all going through, to really open us up at the heart level so that we are able to love the wholeness that we are, love our humanity, and realize that we are not that far away from these maybe abstract concepts of peace, world peace, and well-being for all. Maybe it's closer than we think, and we just need to maybe go through a process of self-discovery and understanding what's going on with ourselves in order to realize that maybe we have all we need to succeed and thrive. And with Power of Women, how can we cultivate this sense of inner power so that we can experience our greatness within? And you all had a little taste of what that edutainment can look like through the Power of Women anthem. And we'll actually be featuring a lot of other amazing pieces throughout this event. But essentially, that's what our aim is with edutainment. It's how do we instill educational content in a way that's engaging and inspires us and reminding us that we have all that we need to experience the life that we want: prosperity, love, joy, bliss, all these higher states. It's actually in our capacity, and some will even argue our right to experience these. So maybe going again, holding that space for ourselves and having these open conversations with one another to understand how, what is going on within us, and maybe removing those blockages that are not allowing us to access these higher states. Maybe that is what we are supposed to embody on a daily basis. Maybe we're not as far away as we think. So that is our aim with edutainment.
I love that. I always agree with you. Even though we have all these conversations all the time, literally every day, we can speak for hours, right? If you're watching this is something we do every day. And then just to get to be able to do this event with you has been one of the most amazing things. And when you say that peace is within us, I want to quote Sister Jenna, who always says we are a point of light, and that's also the Brahma Kumaris and C20. Actually, you are a point of light is their tagline as well, with Ammaji. We know when we're talking about peace, I have seen so many organizations, so many people talking about world peace. Are we really looking at peace from externally? Like, is anybody showing up and really reflecting and be like, hey, am I really showing up with peace from within? Am I doing something to bring inner peace? Because at the end of the day, we are all looking for a peace of mind and well-being for ourselves, our loved ones, and the environment we live in. And are we really focusing on what really matters? Because when we are talking about peace, it really needs to start internally. Because when we show up and interact with each other, because like I said earlier, we are social beings. Are we coming from a peaceful place, or are we coming from a very chaotic place inside? And that's why it's so important to create these spaces, so that way we can actually not have to hold back and feel like we have to be this strong person because the world shouldn't know what I'm going through. It is hard to be vulnerable. Just us. What we had to go through to bring this to you guys today. Ashley and I and the group of people, we are a lean team. We had a lot of support, but the team that has been working, I would say, I want to mention, I know two people, my brother to B, to Neil, David, the incredible men that are actually working behind the scene to put this 48 hours together, Peter and Mark. And Sister Jenna, oh my God, Sister Jenna. There are so many people. I won't have enough time to say, but these are people that's giving us the space to create this, bring this peace. and allowing us to be ourselves. So really, we can actually start spreading this love, spreading this hope. Because also, I have to say, when we talk about peace, it really starts with the breath. And are we even paying attention to the most fundamental component of life, breath, when we're really showing up? Because I feel like that's such an important component of existence, but we are not even paying attention to breath. That really, peace starts with, have you made peace with your own existence, with breathing? And I think peace starts with self. Are we showing up from a peaceful place? And if it's not, it's okay, because I mean, we can start focusing on it. We can, now that we have spot the light on it, we can. I mean, it's never too late. I think as long as we are willing to show up and do the work, take accountability for ourselves, because I don't think we can change the world, but we can change ourselves and inspire others to change for themselves. I think that's the way we can really bring collective change, global change, when we all take accountability for ourselves. And what does that mean? When we create a space like this, it's not about pointing fingers about what went wrong. Oh, they could have done this better. They could have done that better. I think whatever it is, we have this space. We have started this space. Let's show up. Let's show up and let's see, how can I contribute? Ask yourself. And don't wait till we tell you how to do it. I mean, take the initiative, join forces. I mean, you see the beehive, we are all queen bees of our life. I mean, even though we call it a queen, we are all leading our lives. We are leaders of our own life. We need to start accepting that we are leading our life. We're leading our families, whatever capacity that is. We're leading our communities as a collective. It really starts with ourselves, and there's so much power in that. And if you want to do something, come, please join us. I mean, this entire conference, 48 hours, it's not easy, by the way, putting a 48-hour conference that's going to run 48 hours. It took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and we did it without any funding. Actually. It was Ashley, myself, our family is really supporting us. And I think a few, there was only funding, maybe we got funded, but actually donations less than 1,000. We didn't really even go for it. We really committed ourselves because it's needed. We had to surrender to this and really show up when the call was made for us to show up and really say, hey, whatever it takes, we'll commit, we'll surrender, and really create this space. And whatever happens after today, tomorrow, and the day after, I mean, sky is the limit. You all have whoever is watching this right now, you all have the space to really show up. We don't have to have all the experiences in the world or have this, very exclusive job titles to make change. I mean, we could just show up as we are and then be that change. And I think that's the most important thing for us to keep in mind. And I want to add one more thing too. People always say something is impossible until it's done. And our anthem starts with impossible spells impossible. So don't ever doubt yourself about the amount of change you can bring. So always remember that.
That's beautiful. And I want to shine light now on the G20 theme, one Earth, one family, one future. When we talk about holding space in the context of one family, one future, and I butchered that as well. One Earth, one family, one future. When we talk about holding space, I would love to gauge our audience and understand, what does that mean to all of you? What does it mean to hold space, and what does it mean in the context of the G20 theme? And we're actually going to have some Zoom rooms available later on throughout this event that we would love to see you and participate. Hopefully we can get your participation and we can have a discussion about it. We're also having polling integrated throughout the programming so that we can really engage in conversations and understand as a collective what does it mean? What does power of women mean? What does a woman mean? What does a space, a safe space mean? Having these open conversations, and of course, as part of having a safe space, it's also valuing everybody's perspectives. There's no wrong perspective, and just being respectful of everybody's perspectives, because we all are, we're all spread across the world, so we're all having different experiences, and it's important to respect everyone's perspectives. But yeah, we would really love to know, what does it mean with this G20 theme of one family, one future? What is it?
One Earth.
I'm not good with quotes. I'm sorry. You're getting to see a little bit about who I am. Shanali knows all the quotes. But essentially, yes, this is what we're talking about with holding space, right? Even accepting the humanity of forgetting quotes and laughing and just bringing your whole self to the conversation and in your relationships and in any setting, really embracing the wholeness of who you are. And so, once again, it's such an honor and pleasure to have you all tune in to this conference, and you're all in for a treat. And again, thank you so much for allowing the power of women to enter your hearts, your souls, your minds, and we look forward to having a conversation with you.
That was so beautifully said, and you're right. That's a part of being human, forgetting quotes. Where none of us are perfect, and I think that's where we need to start recognizing and being real with ourselves. Don't expect somebody to be perfect every time. If somebody makes a mistake, be willing to forgive, be willing to forgive. And I think we should also have the habit of apologizing, saying sorry, putting your ego aside. If you really reflect and realize, hey, you did something wrong, or you shouldn't have done something, be willing to say sorry, and at the same time, be willing to forgive. If you want to be forgiven, you must forgive. And that's one of the most important things. And what we have created, like Ashley said, we have created polling, and we have Zoom rooms. With the polling, what we're doing is really, we want your voice to be heard. We are creating edutainment. This is a long-term initiative. We are not here to just do it one time and then disappear. No, we are here. This is a part of a movement that has been happening for so long, the women's movement. We are the next generation of leaders. So we have stepped up to really, take a new twist and a turn with the women's movement. Really bring the edutainment component, bring our men to the picture. It doesn't matter if you identify yourself as a man, a woman, or a trans. It does not matter. We are all human beings at the end of the day. That's the most fundamental thing for us to remember. And why do we say power of women? Look at us. We just are able to create this space when we come together, be inclusive, and really coming from your heart point of view. So make sure you answer those polls, so that way we can take your answers and really incorporate into understanding where is everybody, what is everybody thinking, and also being respectful of every person's perspective. If you want your perspective to be respected, guess what? You have to respect another person's perspective, as long as you're not hurting someone, intentionally, or hurting someone in general, and you're not trying to cause somebody pain. I think that's the most important thing. Show up and really, let's see, what are we all bringing to the table. It's going to be fun. For the next few years, we are here. This 48-hour conference is going to be a starting point for discussions. There's so many incredible speakers with their wisdom. There are so many people showcasing their perspectives. Let's see if we can learn one thing. That's something we want. That's our hope. If you can learn one thing, that is when we have accomplished our goal, because we have created a 48 hours, so you can tune in from anywhere in the world at any point this weekend and get a bite size of tune in for 15 minutes and you will get something. And I think with that being said, I know we're coming to a closing, Ashley. I hope we actually clarified a lot of the questions you may have. If not, please feel free to ask us. Go on our social media, powerofwomen.info on Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. Go on our website, email us. We are here to answer. This is really to make it more interactive. We will have Zoom rooms for you all to come in. And let's make it fun. I mean, let's stop thinking there's no hope. There is hope. I mean, we are here. Come on. There is hope. We have showed up. You all are here. So, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say something real quick. We brought in the experts. We have over 100 speakers, and this has been so amazing. And just like all of you, we are all, Shanali and I are also on this journey. We're also learning still. We're going through our journey of growth and transformation, and becoming better versions of ourselves. So really, 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 you're in for a treat with regards to the different speakers, touching on different themes. And also want to mention that this discussion, this conference, the discussion extends outside this platform. We're going to be engaged through the digital space, which is through social media, through chats. So please reach out, tag us, and we'd love to just engage you in conversation.
Thank you. And thank you so much for allowing us to join you today, and hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Enjoy. Thank you.
Civil 20, India 2023 envisions a conception of civil society 2.0. In a world where individual, family, society, market, and state can understand their respective roles better and supplement each other rather than engaging in conflicts. This year, the C20 symbolizes the flame of hope, self-motivation, and selfless service.
Amma is grateful to the Indian government for arranging such a high-quality meeting. All the issues raised here are vitally important. This should go beyond a mere physical meeting and become a true meeting, a meeting of hearts and minds. This is the only way to awaken ourselves and others.
This year, C20 working groups will focus on integrated holistic health, mind, body, and environment. Sustainable and resilient communities, climate, environment, and net zero targets. Education and digital transformation. Gender equality and disability. Technology, security, and transparency. Lifestyle for environment. Preservation and conservation of traditional arts, crafts, and culture. Human rights as human values. Revival of rivers and water management. Seva, sense of service, philanthropy, and volunteerism. Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is one family. Diversity, inclusion, and mutual respect. SDG 16 and promoting civic space. Delivering democracy through participatory governance.
It's an honor to introduce Meg Jones, a distinguished figure in the realm of international diplomacy and gender equality. Meg's extensive experience and unwavering commitment to advancing the rights and empowerment of women have left an indelible mark on the global stage. Currently serving as the International Coordinator for the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group of the G20 Engagement Group C20, Civil Society 20, Meg Jones plays a pivotal role in shaping policies and initiatives that promote gender equality on a global scale. Her work is particularly significant under the Indian presidency of the G20 in 2023. Meg's journey in advocating for gender equality has taken her across the world, spanning 78 countries, and her contributions have been recognized with numerous international awards. Notably, she was honored as Women of the Year by the Organization of Women in International Trade, a testament to her dedication and impact. With a background that includes roles at the UN, the International Trade Center, and the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Meg Jones possesses a wealth of knowledge and experience that informs her in empowering women and promoting gender equality. Today, Meg will explain what is C20 and Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. Meg, welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference. It's such an honor to have you with us.
Ashley, thank you so much. I'm delighted and honoured to be here with you today. Thank you. So look, actually, what I'd like to do at the outset is recognise the very good work of Power Women Digital, because this is exactly what we need at this time. At this time in India, who holds the presidency this year for the G20, we have the heads of states of 19 countries, plus the European Union, meeting in India. So it's fantastic that your organisation has put this series together, because this is exactly what we need to be, that translator between what's taking place in the dialogues with the heads of state and what it is that civil society needs to grab hold of and run with going forward to keep our governments accountable. I mean, the C20, as you know, is Civil Society 20. We are one of the 11 engagement groups of the G20, which was set up to actually interact and advise those governments through a process on what the pressing issues of the day actually are. It's a big, heavy lifting task, and each government that takes it on each year needs to nominate a strong chair to bring civil society together. And we certainly have that. Prime Minister Modi, in his infinite wisdom, did actually appoint Sri, and I'm going to get her name beautifully correct because it's a little bit complex for those of us from overseas, but it's certainly worth looking up the extreme words of wisdom of our leader here, Sri Mata Amritananda Mayi Devi, otherwise known as Amma, who is the chair of the C20. Before I go into exactly what the C20 is there, Ashley, I wanted to take a step back and look at the G20 with those 19 countries plus the European Union. And let's have a look at why that's so important that civil society has a direct line of dialogue with the G20. And that's because of this reason. The G20 members represent 80% of global GDP, over 75% of global trade, and about 2/3 of the world's population. So it's got a significant power. And one of the advantages of the G20 countries coming together is that they can learn from each other in difficult times. In fact, that was why the G20 was established. Roots in the financial crisis, has worked its way through also in dealing with navigating the more recent COVID pandemic as well. So what the governments can learn from each other is best practices, which can be learned and reapplied in different countries. Now, the thing about government policy is that it does, of course, impact civil society, impacts individuals. And we as a voice, we need to have a voice to get through up to our leaders at the domestic level and then more broadly across this group. And that's actually what the C20 is. Now, in the context of the C20, under India's presidency, we have an unprecedented number working groups underneath the focus of the work in the C20. And this is important, and I think the government of India, and in particular Amma, this represents her understanding of not only the political issues of the day, but the social and environmental issues of the day as well. The mantra is one family, one future, one earth. So we've really captured that in the different engagement groups that we're looking at under the C20. So what I'd like us to do here, Ashley, if you wouldn't mind, is to put a little video together. We've put a little video together here to actually explain what the C20 is. And there's some key highlights in that in terms of the number, the breadth of the engagement we had this year, and also what the areas of the key policy recommendations.
Within Civil 20, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group, formerly known as Gender Equality and Disability, is committed to holistically examining and addressing the multifaceted dimensions of inequalities and disadvantages experienced by people of all genders. We reflect the global commitment to ensure gender equality and recognize that this is a cross-cutting issue that affects all aspects of sustainable development. Under the guidance of the Honorable Chair of Civil 20, India 2023, Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, Amma, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group aims to reinforce an approach to equality and development through an understanding that mutual respect and compassion, regardless of gender, should be at the core of global governance for societies and the planet to flourish sustainably. Through this lens, the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Working Group's focus has been centered on 6 interconnected sub-themes that approach gender equality from the perspectives of economic empowerment and sustainable livelihoods, physical and mental health, education and skill development, safety and security, environment and disasters, social cultural implications, including engaging and creating awareness in men and boys. After months of consultations with thousands of CSOs worldwide, our working group successfully held an international summit on April 22 to 23, 2023, where CSOs and senior experts from around the world came together to deliberate on the proposed policy recommendations, condensed them into a short list of the most critical policies, and then democratically selected the top recommendations to be submitted to the G20. Key recommendations and udaharans were announced. Among the most exciting achievements was the establishment of a separate working group focusing specifically and exclusively on disability, while our working group's identity shifted to gender equality and women's empowerment. The resultant policy pack on the theme of gender equality and women's empowerment captures the outcomes of this summit and reflects the most urgent and critical policies for the G20 leadership to consider.
So there you have it, Ashley. This is the C20. I think the highlights have captured very well there in that video. And I'd like to point out at this juncture to all of those who are watching that video, the policy pack and communique from the C20 and the report of the W20 our C20 Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment group are all on the website. If you Google C20 Gender Equality Women's Empowerment, you'll be able to access all of those resources just there. And I would encourage those listening to do so because there, of course, you can find the policy recommendations. Now, what does that mean in the broader context? We are, of course, hoping that the G20 leaders who are meeting in India this week take note of those recommendations and do make commitments in that area. What it means is that the G20 leaders, when they make commitments in that area, there is a reporting process back as to achievements, implementation done on those particular commitments. And it enables us at civil society to advocate at our level to local, state, federal/regional governments on those topics as well. So if I were to pick out one or two areas that we've made recommendations in. We've made both what they call cross-cutting recommendations and specific thematic recommendations. Some of our cross-cutting areas include, for example, policy recommendation for the collection of sex disaggregated data, and then also looking at monitoring evaluation in policy development for greater transparency and accuracy in reporting as well, and of course for accountability. Now, also in that zone, we're looking at, we've called for the allocation of sufficient human and financial resources for gender equality policies and programs to be established, and prioritising the safety and security of girls and women in all aspects of life. Now, if I were to give you an example of why that's important and how this actually works, for all of you watching this particular webinar, you will be a taxpayer in your country. And so what our policy recommendations aim to provide is some guidance to government on how taxpayers' money can be effectively spent on areas of importance that have been indicated through this participatory process to identify these policy recommendations in the context of the G20. So what that means, for example, if we're talking about the translation of taxpayers' money into spending, any spending in a government context is done through policy. You've got a policy, for example, to build a new hospital, build roads, so on and so forth, allocate monies in that area. Now, you can look at this in terms of two ways. When we're collecting sex disaggregated data, we can look at this from an engagement process and an impact process. So if we're looking at this from an engagement process, we could be looking for data on, for example, the number of women-owned companies that are participating in the government procurement process. If we stick to the hospitals analogy, for example, that could be the number of companies that are owned, operated and controlled by women who are selling, for example, bed sheets or uniforms or food services into that space. And then conversely, on the impact side, we could be looking at the number of women and men who are actually receiving hospital treatment, to look at the statistics there to see whether or not women are able to access health services in, of course, urban and remote settings. So the setting up a policy for success in the context of gender equality and women's empowerment, it does mean that we need to have sex disaggregated data, look at the engagement and impact on both men and women, boys and girls, and other genders, to see how that policy is actually working out. In order to achieve that, there needs to be the allocation of adequate human and financial resources to actually set up a policy for success. And to ensure the baselines are there. If we go back to that analogy about sourcing goods and services from companies owned by women, you'd need to establish at first what percentage of government procurement is currently being spent on sourcing goods and services from companies owned by women. My experience is that if you go to either the public or private sector, no matter the size of the company, it's usually less than 1% of spend it goes to companies owned by women. So on that baseline, there can certainly be a commitment to improve, and where the commitment needs to be made, there needs to be an actual policy adopted by the government or the company as well. Just in the context of India, and once again to the utility of the G20 process, the government of India did actually adopt a procurement preferential, what's called a preferential procurement policy to source goods and services from companies owned by women. There's a 3% target there. And in an iterative process, policy is always a process of learning. Once you get your accountability in there, you see there are gaps. What can you do to fill them? The government of India also set up a gender e-market portal as a place where women-owned companies could actually make themselves known to governments and therefore increase their visibility in that particular process. So you can see government policy needs to be informed by civil society. Civil society was, is, and will always be, if you like, a strong supporter and watchdog for government on policy. So it's an iterative process. A policy is adopted. There needs to be the sexually segregated collection of data there, the monitoring, the evaluation of those policies, so that we can make sure that they are effective on the ground. And if they're not, why not? And again, go through that policy of that process of public consultation for improvement. So what you see in the G20 context has been, for each of those countries and civil societies that are participating, bring the knowledge and wealth from their particular engagement processes with government to this consultative level. We learn from each other, we make the policy recommendations, we help each other bring those to the attention of our governments and look to see that they're implemented across. And then between the different presidencies of the G20. It was Indonesia last year, it's India this year, it'll be Brazil next year. There's a troika which bring those three experiences together, representatives of those three governments, to ensure that there's a handover process between and that there's some continuity in recognition and understanding of the policy recommendations which have been made and those which are being implemented.
Meg, thank you so much for informing us on the significance of what it is for us, for the general public, to be aware of these policy recommendations and how it impacts all of us at a global scale. Thank you so much for explaining the significance of C20 in general and the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. As for everybody hearing, as Meg explained, the essence of C20 and the vital work of the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Working Group. Hopefully everybody feels empowered with the knowledge and inspired. Meg, we thank you so much for gracing us today at the Power of Women Digital Conference with your insights and expertise. I do believe that your presence here has illuminated the path forward for not just myself and women worldwide, but just the global community in general, and how we can have a brighter and more inclusive future for all. So it was a pleasure and honor to have you with us.
You're very welcome, Ashley. Last shout out to everyone, get involved. Go to that website, have a look, find your favourite policy recommendation, because then it's not just your policy recommendation. This consultation took place with 74 nationality, thousands of people. So you can actually say, this is important not only to me and my organisation, my society, but it's been recognised as having critical importance in the context of the G20. It's a powerful tool for advocacy, Ashley. Go for it, women. Go for it, guys. Let's hit it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Meg.
Thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, Miss Elizabeth Moreno. Welcome to the Power of Women Digital Conference. Elizabeth is a businesswoman and a delegate who served as the Minister for Gender Equality, Diversity and Equal Opportunities from 2020 to 2022, reporting to the Prime Minister of France. We are truly honored to have you be a part of the Power of Women Digital Conference, and we look forward to hearing what you have to share about the importance of women's role and participation in decision-making processes. Welcome once again.
Shanali, thank you so much for having me And more than that, thank you very much for this great initiative that your organization has taken, because this topic indeed is warm to my heart. But I think for the entire global population, I think it's a very, very important topic. And I'm glad that we have the opportunity to see how we can move forward and make real big changes. I'm very honored to stand before you today as we delve into this fantastic and immense topic because it concerns half of our human population. And speaking about women, peace and security, as a woman who has deeply been involved in this topic for my country in France, is really, really important to me. And I'm particularly enthusiastic about discussing how this critical aspect of human rights has evolved over the years. And if I'm correct, Shanali, in this session, we will explore the journey from 2002 to the present day, highlighting the progress we've made since then, the challenges we continue to face, and the road that lies ahead. And I'm going to be frank with you. I do not intend to consider the difficult situation women are living, because everybody knows that the situation of women across the planet today needs to evolve, and it needs to evolve quickly, not only in the interest of women and girls, but also in the interest of men and boys. Because everything that is done badly to women also impacts boys and men in our society. And we cannot imagine 1 second that mistreating half of the human population can go ahead without having an impact on the entire humanity. And I'm truly convinced that most of the difficulties we are facing in the planet today is because we are excluding women from the tables of decision, from the tables of discussions, from the tables of negotiation. I am very happy to realize that more and more global organizations, nations, NGOs, and governments are understanding that it is necessary to involve women in every single decision that has an impact not only on their lives, but also on the nations where they live. You know, 2 years ago, I organized an event when I was a minister where we had more than 70 countries attending. It was with UN Women as well as Mexico. We did an incredible work with almost 50 countries across the world. Those countries all decided that it was time for their nation, but also for their companies, for their NGOs and every institution, it was time to give a better place to women. I remember the passion that was in the room. I remember the decisions that have been made. And 2 years after, I am so sad to realize that despite the commitment that had been made, we are still struggling on so many topics regarding girls and women across the world. So, you know, I remember when I had some conversation with people telling me, oh, come on, in France, you don't need to have this kind of stuff because in these human rights countries, women are treated the same way men are treated. That's not true. Across the world, as it is the case in France, 1 woman in 3 is suffering domestic violence, physical violence, sexual violence by their partners and non-partners. So I am not going to share these data that you are all aware of, because everybody knows, whatever your expertise, whatever your experience, wherever you live, whatever your culture is, everybody knows that there is not a single country, not a single culture that treats its boys and men the same way it treats its men and girls. So if we say that, if everybody knows for decades that the treatment given to girls and women is different, that these inequalities do exist, we may wonder why 75 years after the Declaration of Human Rights was signed, why do we still have women killed by their partners? Why do we still have women that are raped? Why do we still have countries who are preventing girls from going to school just because they are girls? We may wonder why, despite the fact of our rights should be equal for every single human being, why women are still suffering so much inequalities. I have to say that my situation and your situation, Shinali, is much better than our mothers or our grandmothers. That's true. I have to say that the progress we have made over the past 30 years is just amazing. I can't count the number of laws, of dispositions, of declarations that have been made so we can see the situation of women improve. I have countless examples of decisions that have been made by countries to provide a better situation to their girls, to their women. But still, the results is so poor. And we can consider these inequalities that women are suffering like a kind of pandemic. But unfortunately, nobody has found the vaccine against these inequalities. So I'm not going to do what we used to do in this circumstance. I'm just going to tell you, as Einstein said, only insane people keep doing the same thing all the time, expecting different results. If what we have done for the past 50 years or so has not brought the results we were expecting, then it means it is time to change things. Maybe it is time now to give women the power they deserve. I do believe that women are powerful beyond what they believe, but they lack trust and confidence. They lack self-esteem because their education, because this patriarchal environment we live in, do not remind them every single day that they have intelligence, they have power, they have passion, they have ambition, they have willingness. So what is really preventing them from using this power to create a different world? Men have held the power for such a long time. And I'm not going to blame them because I think that they did their very best. I'm sure everything they do for their countries, for their organizations, they are doing it for the best. But all the difficulties the world is facing today, all these climate change issues, all these economic issues, all these geopolitical issues, all these conflicts that we are facing on a daily basis are showing that maybe, if we had a better balance, if we have better harmony, if we had a better power sharing between women and men, maybe we would find solutions that we have not tried yet. I know power is not something that is given. Power is something that is taken. So I urge all the women who are listening to us to remember all the power they have in their arms. I want them to remember that they give birth. When you give birth, you have all the power you need on earth to make the changes that are needed. So please, ladies, enjoy this power, recognize it, and play for the better, not only for you, but for your girls, for your boys, and for the men who are surrounding you, because they do believe that they know what needs to be done, but the proof is showing the opposite. We cannot continue to live in a world where half of the population is not considered for who she is supposed to be considered. We cannot accept a world where the entire power is on the hands of a few number of people. We cannot continue to accept a world where negotiation is only made by 10 or 20% of our population. We cannot accept a world where the money is shared by 10 or 20% of the population. We cannot accept. to let humanity go into the direction it is going. And it is more than ever time to change. Yes, we are living plenty of challenges, but behind every challenge, there is an opportunity. And I'm truly convinced that the coming century is opening the door to a true manner to do things, to eat, to sleep, to breathe, to do everything differently. And the only way human being can survive is to give the floor, to give the decision, to give everything needed to women. And you would see how this world would change.
Wow, what a beautiful presentation. You know, Elizabeth, I think we have come so far, but there's a long way for us to go. And thank you for sharing such a powerful message with us today. And as the former French Minister for Gender, we're truly honored and grateful that female leaders like you are there to lead, and you really give us hope. So thank you so much. Very grateful for everything you do. Thank you.
Shonali, I'm grateful again. You know, I'm sure that all the things I have said are things that everybody knows. All the topics you will be addressing during these 48 hours, everybody knows. Everybody knows that women are suffering because they are lacking economic power. Everybody knows that if we had more girls studying, we will get much more innovation, creativity. Everybody knows that it is unacceptable for every leader that will be listening to you. They have a girl, they have a boy. They wouldn't accept their girls to be illustrated as another girl may be. Nothing is new in what I'm telling you. What is new is my message to these women. I want them to know that they have the power in their hands to change this world. And it is time to use this power.
Absolutely. I mean, we demand for something we don't have, but we already have the power. It's a matter of stepping into it and embracing it as women. Thank you for your powerful message.
We have to be courageous. We have to trust each other. And you will see, because it's not a battle between men and women. I don't see it at all this way. I see it as a way to maximize our human power. If we give ChatGPT the power to change our humanity, we will all die. But if we decide that we have these women sitting next to us who have something to say, something to invent, then maybe we will see a big change in this world.
Absolutely. It's about collaboration and coming together. This is time for all of us to work towards a shared mission for humanity. And here we are.
Here we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shonali, for having me. And I hope, I don't know what kind of results you're going to get out of these 2 days. But I think it is time to stop speaking and acting. And I'm seeing so many examples across the world of women and men working together to make these things happen. I strongly believe that collaboration is absolutely fundamental. Collaboration between international institutions, between governments, between NGOs, between companies. I'm sure if we put all our strengths together, nothing will stop us. I'm sure. I'm definitely convinced about this. So it's all about being responsible. It's all about taking into consideration what really needs to be done. And again, we have every law needed. The problem is the execution. If we put the same ambition on fixing this pandemic that is pledging against women, if we put the same ambition to fix it as we did for the COVID-19, I can tell you in 1 year, we will fix most of the problem.
Amen to that. Hello, everyone. We hope that you all are enjoying the Power of Women Digital Conference. We want to hear from you and interact with you. We want your voice to be heard. And all you have to do is grab your phone, turn on your camera, and scan the QR code to participate and share your thoughts through our polling questions. And stay tuned, because later in the broadcast, we will have a digital town hall discussion on all the results. And I will let the speaker take it from here.
I have a few questions for your audience because I wanted to participate to what you are creating, Shanari. My first question would be, in your opinion, what is the main reason that explains why in 2023, 50% of the human population is excluded from the circles of decisions that directly concerns them? My second question would be the following. Lack of political determination, patriarchal culture, educational failure? At your level, what is the most realistic action that you could implement to improve the status of women in society? And don't tell me that you can't do something, because each and every one of us can make a difference in another person's life. And my third question is probably a bit more challenging, I may say. Which country in the world is the most respectful of women's rights?
Hello, everyone. It is with great honor that we welcome Ambassador Anwarul Chowdhury to the Power of Women Digital Conference. Ambassador Chowdhury is a distinguished diplomat and former Undersecretary General of the United Nations, and his pivotal role in championing the landmark UN Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace, and security has left an indelible mark on the world's commitment to empowering women's participation in decision-making processes. We're privileged to have Ambassador Chowdhury today and advocate for positive change with so much to offer. Ambassador Chowdhury, thank you for joining the Power of Women Digital Conference today to talk about Resolution 1325.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Those kind words. My warmest greetings to all the participants joining at the Power of Women Digital Conference. In the first month of Bangladesh's joining the Security Council in January 2000, President Nelson Mandela was in New York to report to the Security Council in his capacity as the UN-mandated facilitator of the Burundi peace process. In an informal setting, he shared with us that his efforts to include women in the peace table were not working, as the participating men objected to women's participation as unnecessary and as they cannot handle the seriousness of the issues. Eager to hear what women want to share, Madiba, as we are honored to call him, President Mandela would invite them to have tea with him in the evenings after the formal meetings were over. At next morning's formal meeting, he would present some ideas for discussion, and men around the table started praising him for those forward-looking ideas. He alerted them by saying that those were not my ideas, rather those were from the women whom the men are not allowing to join at the peace table. The key message here is that women add value and bring in positive perspectives to building peace, keeping in mind the best interest of their society. Women, equal half of humanity, bring a new breadth, quality, and balance of vision to our common effort to move away from the cult of war towards the culture of peace. Women's equality makes our planet safe and secure. Likewise, this is the core message of the United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325, titled Women and Peace and Security. And it is an integral part of my intellectual existence and my humble contribution to a better world for each one of us. More than 23 years ago, on the International Women's Day, on the 8th of March in 2000, as the President of the Security Council, following extensive stonewalling and intense resistance from the permanent members, I was able to issue an agreed statement on behalf of all 15 members of the Council, with strong support from civil society, that formally brought to global attention the contribution women have always been making toward preventing war and building peace. The Council recognized in that significant norm-setting statement that, and I quote, peace is inextricably linked with equality between women and men, end of quote, and affirmed the value of full and equal participation of women at all decision-making levels. That is when the seed for Resolution 1325 was sown. The formal resolution followed this conceptual and political breakthrough on the 31st of October of the same year, with Namibia at the helm of the Council presidency. After tough negotiations for 8 months, the unexplained silence of the Security Council for 55 long years on women's positive role was broken forever on the 8th of March 2000. The United Nations has recognized time and again that unfortunately overall progress towards gender equality had been unacceptably slow, with stagnation and even regression in some areas. Women's rights and equality are under threat from a backlash of conservatism and fundamentalism around the world. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres said very succinctly that, and I quote, "The truth is that North and South, East and West, and I'm not speaking about any society, culture, or country in particular, everywhere we still have a male-dominated culture," end of quote. My work has taken me to the farthest corners of the world, and I have seen time and again the centrality of women's equality in our lives. This realization has now become more pertinent in the midst of ever-increasing militarism, militarization, and weaponization that is destroying both our planet and our people. Patriarchy and misogyny are the dual scourges pulling back the humanity away from our aspiration for a better world to live in freedom, equality, and justice. Men and policies and institutions controlled by them have been the main perpetrators of gender inequality, which is a real threat to human progress. The UN Charter has entrusted the Security Council with the responsibility of maintaining international peace and security. In that context, before the adoption of 1325, Security Council found women as only helpless victims of wars and conflicts without recognizing their positive role and contribution in their resolution. As you know, the Nobel Peace Prize in 2011 was presented to 3 women peace builders from Liberia and Yemen. In its citation, the Nobel Committee referred to 1325 and asserted that, and I quote, "We cannot achieve democracy and lasting peace in the world unless women obtain the same opportunities as men to influence developments at all levels of society," end of quote. It was only on that occasion any Nobel Peace Prize citation has mentioned a UN resolution so specifically. It is a reality that politics, more so security, is a man's world. We should not forget that empowered women bring important and different skills and perspectives to the policy-making table in comparison to their male counterparts. The slogan of the global campaign on women, peace, and security, which we launched in London in June 2014, reiterates, if we are serious about peace, we must take women seriously. Here, let me reiterate the keen expectation of humanity is that the United Nations, as it humanity, let me read again. Here, let me reiterate the keen expectation of humanity to the United Nations that it elects next a woman Secretary General after 9 men during its nearly 80 years of existence. I am asked time and again what could be done for the true implementation of 1325 to make a difference. In my considered judgment, I have identified 4 areas of priority for next 5 years. 1, leadership of the Secretary General. What role the Secretary General should play? Many of us believe that there is a need for the Secretary General's genuinely proactive engagement of the effective implementation of 1325. It should be seriously taken up by Secretary General's UN system-wide coordination mechanism. 2, national action plans. As we are approaching the 23rd anniversary of 1325, it is truly disappointing that 107 countries out of 193 members of the United Nations have prepared their national action plans for the implementation of 1325, taking more than 20 years. There are no better ways to get country-level commitment to implement 1325 other than NAPs, as we call them. 3, mobilizing men for implementing 1325. We need to recognize that women's equality and their rights are not only women's issues, but those are also relevant for humanity as a whole, for all of us. Number 4, direct involvement of civil society. Another missing element is a serious, regular, genuine, and participatory involvement of civil society in the implementation of national and global levels. The role and contribution of civil society is critical. Civil society should be fully involved in the preparation and implementation of the national plans at the country level. Let me conclude by asserting that feminism is about smart policy, which is inclusive, uses all potentials, and leaves no one behind. Feminism should be taken seriously as the core foundation of our policymaking processes. I am proud to be a feminist. All of us need to be. That is how we can make our planet a better place to live for all. I call upon all participants at this digital conference, including its organizers, to publicly and formally announce that every one of them is a feminist. Let us start an effective campaign for that from the 11th of September, 2023. We should always remember that without peace, development is impossible. And without development, peace is not achievable. But without women, neither peace nor development is conceivable. I thank you.
I applaud you, Ambassador Chaudhry. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. We are so grateful for your lifelong dedication towards peace, gender equality, and women's empowerment. Most of all, Resolution 1325. And you had declared a campaign, and I think this is something for all of us to think about, what it means to be a feminist. And thank you for sharing the 4 points as well, how to make Resolution 1325 a success. It's no longer an option because it has to happen, and we are here. We have to do something about it. And thank you for sharing your insight, and appreciate you immensely for being here with us today. Thank you.
The theme of Power of Women embodies collaboration through edutainment across diasporas through the collectives alliances that support positive global change.
Our next distinguished speaker, who will be giving us the first keynote speech at the Power of Women Digital Conference on Feminine Leadership, coming from a human perspective and an enlightened male perspective, is Jonathan Grenov. He is the president of the Global Security Institute, a senior advisor and United Nations representative of the Permanent Secretariat of the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates. He's also the ambassador for peace, security, and nuclear disarmament of the Parliament of the World Religions, among many accolades. Please welcome this incredible intellect, Jonathan Grenov.
Hello, it's truly an honor for me to address a subject of truly important concern to everybody who cares about justice and who cares about making the world better, which is the importance of women's leadership and the full equality of the genders on the planet. So I want to begin by referencing a particular woman leader who is exemplary, inspiring, and created enormous change in the world. Her name was Bella Abzug. Bella was a congresswoman from New York, a lawyer, an activist, a visionary. And she was one of the leaders who helped create Women's Strike for Peace. And I want to begin with that because that was a movement led by women because they were frustrated by the inadequacy of the male leadership in addressing the extraordinary and present threat of the annihilation of the human species through the misuse of technology and the application of military expenditures and especially nuclear weapons. So in the 1950s, it became clear that because of nuclear testing, strontium-90 was appearing in mother's milk. It was discovered by looking at children's teeth. And a movement began in protest of this called Women's Strike for Peace. And in the autumn of 1961, over 50,000 women, which was quite a lot at that time, demonstrated collectively for an end to the nuclear arms race. They called it, they called for pure milk, not poison. And there was a joining of environmentalists, women's movements, and disarmament advocates, basically the organization SANE. And within a few years, it was enormously successful. It led to the Limited Test Ban Treaty, which ended any nuclear testing in the atmosphere on the planet Earth, dramatically lowering birth defects, cancers, and a whole range of horrible things that happened. And that was really important. The problem was that once the testing went underground, it was sort of out of sight and out of mind. And we haven't had such a powerful joining of forces since then. And that came about because of a very small group of women without the internet, using networks within a few months, put that movement together and the demand was powerful. Their organizing was intelligent, and it was led by women. Bella Abzug, one of the people that did this, later on helped create an organization called Women's Environmental and Development Organization, We Do. The other leaders that helped create that included the brilliant visionary Vandana Shiva from India, an intellectual and activist leader, and may she rest in peace, one of my very good friends, a Nobel Peace Laureate, Wangari Maathai from Kenya. Let me just say a few words about her leadership. She started the Greenbelt movement, which was a massive tree planting movement. I think they did it in over 6,000 villages in Eastern Africa. But she was a trailblazer of enormous courage, enormous love, enormous power, and enormous vision. And she understood that by organizing women to plant trees in the rural areas of Africa, that it would create a women's empowerment movement that would engage them in activism. She ran for president of Kenya, and the military junta people beat her with lead pipes and left her for dead when she came out of her coma in the hospital and called a press conference. She went public and said, "Well, finally I get a little publicity." She had a spirit that could not be beaten down. She had a strength that came from the roots of the earth and that stretched up to the heavenly blessings of God Almighty. She had no anger, she had courage, and she was incredibly effective. In fact, my son studied with her when she became a professor at Yale and traveled with her to the villages in Kenya, and said she was treated like very much like Gandhi in that part of the world. And she stayed with us, with my wife and I, for a few weeks at one time when we were doing, no, it was about just a week. It was a week in Philadelphia. We organized the conference that had a lot of women leaders at Haverford College. And she explained to me that when she got her PhD, at the time, she was the first woman in East Africa to get a PhD, and the elders and communities threatened her very life. She stood up with unbelievably powerful courage. She was one of the leaders, along with Bella Abzug, who created We Do. And Bella gave a keynote plenary speech at the Women's Summit in Beijing in the early 1990s. In the 90s, there were a number of world summits, a World Summit on Human Habitat, a World Summit on the Environment in Rio, a World Summit on the Rights of the Child, a World Summit, of course, on women in Beijing. Bella was also very instrumental in the work in the World Summit on Social Development in Beijing. It was called the World Summit on Poverty, and out of which the blueprint came that became the Millennium Development Goals of the United Nations, which are now the Sustainable Development Goals, or the Agenda for 2030. And to say that she was powerfully instrumental in the core foundation of that process would be an understatement. I was one of the founders there of the Values Caucus, and every couple of days we would gather. It was one of the most well-attended events, and she was a principal leader in bringing human values into the process of development and ensuring that values would be front and center. And when she meant family values, she meant the whole human family. And I want to quote directly from her speech in Beijing at the Women's Summit, because it is as relevant today as it was then. She said, "We are building a consensus to face life's realities. The affirmation of women's sexual rights is an important and bold step forward. We're creating a better environment, attributing the cause of environmental degradation to unsustainable overconsumption and production and military conflict. We are affirming human rights for all women and girls, acknowledging the full range of diversity that exists and detailing actions to prevent violence. We're generating better opportunities for women who are living at the margins of life, women who are the majority of the world's poor, hungry, and illiterate, women who would transform the lives of themselves and their families with just 5%, a 5% slice of the military pie. That would be a banquet for the world's 1.3 billion people who are poor. We are strengthening all families by supporting their economic and social needs. We're fashioning new ways to involve women at all stages of negotiation and decision-making. From kitchen tables to peace tables, women propose to turn the tables on the status quo. We're challenging all corporations to play by the rules and all the governments to ensure that the rules are fair. We're moving a political, social, and economic agenda for equality and democracy. Democracy within homes, markets, and the state. From Beijing, the world will never be the same. She called it a revolution, a new partnership between men and women based on real equality. To say that clarion call has not created change would be foolish. Since that time, the world has changed, and it has changed for the better in that regard. As she said, we are bringing women into politics to change the politics, to change the vision, to change the institutions. Women are not wedded to the politics. Hello, it's truly an honor for me to address a subject of truly important. What separates us from other lives? Vanity, pride, arrogance, hastiness, lust, bigotry, prejudice. All of these characteristics separate us from one another. But not only that, they separate us from the harmony within ourselves. Whereas the qualities of compassion, empathy, love, patience, justice, tolerance, peacefulness, receptivity, caring for others, those qualities not only bring us together with others, they bring us together with the deepest roots within ourselves that stretch into the infinite source of our lives, the giver of life itself, the mystery that blesses us, because life is a blessing. And leadership that's connected to the blessing of life will always be positive, will always be nurturing, will always be giving, like a mother. And it will always be protecting and strong and caring for the well-being of others, like a good father. And these, that we shouldn't have a military. And I'm not saying that women shouldn't be able to serve. But we need a far more robust diplomatic corps, and we need a far more robust approach globally to security that is rooted in qualities and characteristics that we identify as women's leadership qualities. So in preparation for this event, I took a sort of a deep dive into the literature on women's leadership to see what scholars and human resource people and people like that are saying about it. For me, I just look at the women leaders that have been an inspiration to the world. And I was, people like Bella Abzug and Wangari Maathai are just perfect examples. I am the president of the Global Security Institute, and I recall in the early 2000s when we gave our Peace Award to Nancy Pelosi, and at the time, no one expected it. And I said, she will be the first female Speaker of the House of Representatives of the United States. And I'm glad I was prescient, because she had all the tools needed to do it. And she highlighted the distinction between being influential and having power. Being influential is valuable, no question about it, but having the actual reins of power is really important. So if you look at the CEOs of the currently of the Fortune 500, there's I think it's about 12% of them are women. That's not adequate, because women's leadership changes a culture in a corporation, changes a culture in an organization, and that imbalance that we have now needs to be corrected. So here are some of the characteristics from the literature that I looked at. Strong female leaders find opportunities for improvement. Strong female leaders keep an open mind. This was obviously written as a pep talk, but it's good. Women leaders tend to approach things from both the large and small perspective. Female leaders are more mindful. Strong female leaders take responsibility. Female leaders aren't afraid to step out of their comfort zone. Female leaders conquer their fears. Strong female leaders make equality a reality. Strong female leaders treat others with respect. Strong female leaders trust their instincts. This is one I liked a lot. 17 reasons why women make great leaders. They value life-work balance better. Well, that's obvious because they're more in touch with the cycles of life biologically, and therefore they demand a greater balance, and that's needed desperately. They're more inclusive by nature. That's been proven in numerous psychological studies, that women are more capable of listening to the feelings and needs of others than men are. It's interesting that these characteristics that we're identifying biologically seem to me to be characteristics that biological men have: nurturing, caring, compassion, and love. And the characteristics of courage, self-realization, individuation, and leadership with clarity and accountability are characteristics that women can have as well. These are, I would say that we have to have a balanced psyche to have any sense of inner peace. But the studies show that women are more empathetic. They're more likely to encourage free thinking, but I think that might be to some extent because they've experienced being outsiders from power. Because once women become, what we've seen is that women can become very conservative in their thinking. If you look at some of the current leadership in some countries that are led by women, particularly in South Asia, we haven't seen real progressive thinking there. So I don't know if that's intrinsic to women, but they definitely focus more intently on teamwork and building a sense of collective success rather than individual success, and individual ego-driven success. Women are obviously better at multitasking. They have stronger emotional communication skills as well as intellectual. They can handle crisis situations very well because, if you've ever seen what it is to raise children, it is the early years are particularly demanding. The CEO of these are all quotes from various women CEOs, all of these 17 characteristics. And this one is: many women, especially moms, are trained caretakers and know how to deal with crisis situations at home with patience and compassion. These attributes become very relevant when a woman leader is dealing with crisis situations, whether this is related to human relations or clients or projects. They can wear many hats. The chief strategy officer of UN's financial advisors. Wearing many hats is often a regular occurrence in a woman's life. They are often balanced careers, households, aging parents, among other things. Women pivot, adjust, and focus on solutions. Resting on the doom and gloom can be time-consuming, so many shift to positive attitudes and solutions to life and work's problems. They keep their egos in check. Ego so often, this is the CEO of a corporation. Egos so often get in the way of good decision-making in the C-suite. Women exhibit ego differently and are good at decision-making with the ego held in check. This is a key advantage in working with boards of directors, partners, and customers. They have higher emotional intelligence, no question. Emotional intelligence, the ability to recognize emotions in yourself and others and relate, is something that has recently gained momentum as an essential leadership behavior. I believe this is something that comes more naturally to women than men, and is something that I personally encountered in my career. Women are more flexible. Women make great leaders because they're flexible and agile. We can see the direction we thought we should take if our company isn't working, and we regroup and change course for the better without much deliberation. I would say without the rigidity of the disproportionate authoritarianism that men tend to exhibit. But those characteristics in men, when they can be, those negative characteristics can be just as exercised by women, as well as these positive characteristics that are identified with women can be exercised by men. And that, to me, is the point, that if we have greater gender equity, the lessons that men need to learn and the lessons that women need to learn to be great leaders are more likely to be shared and developed, and thus we're likely to be more balanced. Women like to lead by example. Women lead by example, and in so many cases, women have climbed the ladder, so they have experienced a variety of roles before they get to the leadership ones, and experience is key. And they defy the odds. One of these psychological studies highlights collaboration versus individual achievement. Individual achievement being more male, they say. Egalitarian versus hierarchical work structures. Women tend to be more respectful of all the people in their work environment. And women are more transformational rather than transactional. I am concerned that the emphasis on balancing that we have to have never overlook the universal principles of good leadership. And the first principle of good leadership is that a person must be a leader of their own state of being. They must have a deep character richness that allows them to be at peace within themselves. When a person is at peace within themselves, then they can have the capacity for clear thinking, for not being swayed by over emotional attachments. They can have the openness to feel the needs of others. So I'm going to just point out a few characteristics that lead to both inner and outer harmony that are universal. And I'm going to make a truth assertion that these principles that I'm going to lay out are true. They're not just poetic aspirations. I would say that one of the principles that is necessary to have inner harmony and inner strength is found in the principle of the golden rule, to treat others as one wants to be treated, and refrain from treating others as one does not want to be treated. Now, this is found in every single philosophy of civilizations, and all of the great whys of all civilizations, and in all religions. But I just think of going through a thought experiment. Just think of how you would feel if tomorrow you treated everyone as an instrument for your own personal, ego-centered and sense-centered and pleasure-centered gratification, without any concern for their well-being and their peace of mind or dignity. And all you did was just do everything completely selfishly. Now just imagine how you would feel when you put your head on the pillow that night. Now imagine another day in which you treat everyone with as much love and respect and care as you yourself want for yourself. That every single person you meet, you realize is a gift within the short amount of space and time that we share on the planet, a gift from the Creator, another miraculous soul longing to find peace and love, longing to connect, longing to be respected, whether they recognize it or not, that you treat everyone as precious as yourself, as best as you can. In other words, you take your moment of life and fill it with love and expressions of love as best as you can. Not without discrimination, knowing that some people you can't express openly your caring, but in your heart, having a heart that is open and caring and full of a sense of the dignity of all lives. And then think of how you feel when you put your head on the pillow that evening. I think that when the golden rule is applied in a family, whether it's male or female applying it, in a nation to other nations, that harmony is achieved, because being human is having the characteristics of being human. And when we apply these characteristics, the consequence, when we put them into action, the consequence is a pillow called a clear conscience. And when there's a clear conscience, there's an openness and a confidence and a strength that comes to a person. And from that, there's a capacity of sharing kindness and love even in a more amplified fashion. And when that happens, that openness increases, that sense of receptivity to the blessing of life itself increases. And then there's a deeper sense of gratitude. And within gratitude, there's grace. And within grace, the most amazing things can happen. Within grace, there's insight. The women leaders that I was talking about, whom I personally worked with and knew very well, evidenced a strength that had grace, not anger, but a strength that had grace, and thus inspired others, and were generous in taking joy in the success of others as themselves. Treating other lives as one wants to be treated leads to being able to go to the first principle in depth within oneself, so that it's part of your DNA, part of your own character. And that leads to the second principle, which is separating from oneself that which separates one from other lives. What separates us from other lives? Vanity, pride, arrogance, hastiness, lust, bigotry, prejudice. All of these characteristics separate us from one another. But not only that, they separate us from the harmony within ourselves. Whereas the qualities of compassion, empathy, love, patience, justice, tolerance, peacefulness, receptivity, caring for others, those qualities not only bring us together with others, they bring us together with the deepest roots within ourselves that stretch into the infinite source of our lives, the giver of life itself, the mystery that blesses us, because life is a blessing. And leadership that's connected to the blessing of life will always be positive, will always be nurturing, will always be giving, like a mother. And it will always be protecting, and strong and caring for the well-being of others, like a good father. And these qualities can be balanced within any individual, but those qualities associated as female, compassion and love and generosity, if they're called female, then men must develop them as well. I like the way of the Eastern characteristic of yin and yang, because when you see the symbol, you see the symbol of yin in the yang section. But the idea is that these qualities are universally necessary. And the last principle I'd like to say, I believe, is universal, is easy to remember. Love people, use things. Never love things and use people. The human being is not only part of the web of life, part of the natural world, part of nature, inseparable from it in reality. The air we breathe comes from the phytoplankton. 60% of our oxygen comes from the phytoplankton, which is dependent on the health of the oceans, which is dependent on the climate. So the very breath that we take is part of the whole. The human being, as other living, breathing creatures, is part of the whole. But the human being is unique in that we have the capacity to choose to be a blessing or a curse upon the rest of the living species. We also have the ability to know ourselves and to make a choice to open ourselves to the energy of the blessing of goodness and love. We have a choice to use the wisdom inherent in our inner selves to understand the interconnectedness of all lives and the preciousness of our time together, and to celebrate and know in a way that other creatures can't. So human security is the outcome of this principle. Instead of pursuing the security of things, ideologies, religious dogma, ethnic, and even obsessive gender identity that can separate us, to put that aside and love and make efforts to love each other, to love human beings, and not the things that we create, not things. Use things in order to express that love. Use things in order to ensure that everybody has public health, everybody has a decent health, everybody has a decent opportunity, everyone has a decent education, everyone has freedom. If these principles of the golden rule, separating from ourselves that which separates us from others, and there are things that we do that could be used for bringing us together or separating us, like religion. Religion can bring love and understanding, or it can lead to arrogance and war. Our gender identity can do the same thing. It can either lead to celebrating the diversity of perspectives and capacities, or it can lead to arrogance, pride, and separation. But it all depends on whether we identify with the thing, something that is temporal, comes and goes, like our ideas or objects, or the sacred soul and life within the human being, which is mysterious and, as the faith traditions say, made in the image of the mystery that gives us life itself. Now, it's interesting that wars are often fought invoking love of religion, love of nation, love of ethnicity. But what if we were to invoke the power of love for harmony and peace within ourselves and in all others? What if we were to invoke the power of love for other nations and families and the entire wondrous web of life of which we are but one thread? Does that mean that we do away with standing up to injustice with force when it's threatening lives? No, in the short term, we can't do that. But we have to have our eye on the compass of success. And the compass of success is bringing these qualities into action in our lives. The entire outcome is beyond our control. I want to end this with a wonderful quote on leadership that I want to say that I met a saint from Sri Lanka, who was found in the jungles of Sri Lanka, who had no differences of religion or no differences between himself and any other people. And he loved everyone himself. His name was Bawa, which just means father. But he had a complete, pure balance of the feminine receptivity and nurturing and the strength of a mountain lion. And he was the happiest human being I ever saw. Now, the happiest politician I ever met in the United States was Senator Alan Cranston, who, along with myself and Mikhail Gorbachev, started the Global Security Institute. And Senator Cranston, when he passed away, we found a poem that he kept in his wallet. And I want to end this with a wise admonition of leadership, really useful for all of us. It's from Lao Tzu, an ancient Chinese sage, who said, "A leader is best when people barely know that they exist. Less good when they obey and acclaim him. Worse when they fear and despise him. Fail to honor people, and they fail to honor you. But of a good leader, when his work is done, his aim fulfilled, they will all say, 'We did it ourselves.'" Leadership that is selfless love rather than love of self. Leadership that is fearless. Leadership that is grounded in inner harmony and peace. Leadership that brings virtue into action. Leadership that when the person says we, they mean the entire human family and the web of life. Like one of my advisors on our board, Dr. Jane Goodall, when she says we, she doesn't just mean human, she means every living being, and lives it and demonstrates the power of one individual stepping out and saying, "I will serve the entire web of life with my life." And I can tell you, Dr. Goodall is a perfect example of women's leadership. So we have the models, and these models can inspire men. They can inspire you. They can inspire me, because they are inspired by the love that is awakened in their hearts. And it is my closing, and I want to close with asking all of us to think deeply, to think really deeply of what leads us. What are the qualities that lead us? And to make the choice to allow the most beautiful and virtuous qualities that we have to shine, and never, ever doubt them, but always doubt those qualities that separate us. And may we have the courage to accept the fullness of the blessing evidenced by those great leaders who have accepted those qualities, so that we can be the examples, and as Gandhi said, be the change that we want to see. Well, thank you, Shanali, for giving me this opportunity, and all the leaders of this great initiative, and all the women leaders who are helping to lead us. And I look forward to working with you. Thank you very much. God bless you.
Hello, my name is Kyoko Kimura. I am a certified healing herbalist and also a meditator and practitioner of Raj Yoga meditation with the Brahma Kumaris World Spiritual Organization. Today I'd like to play a medley of 3 of my own compositions, through which I hope to create healing and uplifting sound for your well-being.
Hi. How to use what you've got to get what you want. My name is Marilyn Tan, and I'm here today to share you how I use what I've got to get what I want. And I'm here to show you how you can do that same thing. I am an unlikely candidate for that to happen because ever since I can remember, I was told I was worth less than dirt and a poor excuse for pregnancy. This is what my family told me because of my gender and my positioning in the family. So how did I become the vice president of Nike, president of Reebok, CEO of Aveda, built 4 startup companies and a nonprofit? But most of all, I am a happy, healthy person and at peace with myself. That's what we're going to hear talk about today, because what you think you have is all you need to get what you want. Here you see a picture of my family. I was born second daughter in a very traditional Chinese family in Hong Kong. That little girl with the giant bow in her hair, that's me. I thought it was pretty cute, but obviously not cute enough because my birth was followed very quickly by the birth of my younger brother, who cemented my position as being unwanted and, as my mother frequently told me, worth less than dirt and a poor excuse for pregnancy. I was abused physically, obviously mentally, and at age 7, they gave me away to my aunt and uncle who didn't have any children in hopes that they would keep me forever because they didn't want another girl. Now, I want to hasten to say it was not a matter of money because my family is quite wealthy. It was truly based on gender. So I went to live with my aunt and uncle in a place called Tai Po in the New Territories in Hong Kong, a fishing village. And there I lived a completely different life from my previous life. I played, or I should say worked, with these fisher children. The one in the middle carrying her younger sibling is about my age 7. And I learned something that we now have a name for. At the time, there was no such name for that, and that is child laborer. I assembled plastic flowers and embroidered the background of these embroidery handbags. Life wasn't so bad because I still was able to have a life, and nobody told me that I was worthless and nobody was beating me. So life went on for a few years like that, and I thought that was going to be my lot in life, so to speak. And then at my age 11, my aunt and uncle had their first child. It was a boy. So the next thing happened. I was moved back to Kowloon, where my family lived, my birth family lived, and my life changed again. Obviously, this shakes a person up quite a bit to go from one to the other with no understanding. So what did I learn from this experience? I learned that hard work pays, because obviously embroidering background of handbags and doing assembly plastic flower work is hard work, especially for a little kid. But it paid money. And I was also indoctrinated to know not to question authority, because obviously who I reported to, where I lived, or what I did was not something that I had any control over. And then there is an upper limit to how far a person can rise in life. Now, I ask you, if I believe these things still, would I be talking to you now about what I'm talking to you about? You have to say, no, obviously not. I must have changed my mindset. I must have changed what I believe to be something else so that I can rise in life and really attain what I want. Now, I'm asking you, are you holding on to anything that's keeping you back from being everything you possibly can be? So now, living with my family at age 11, I was sent to a very good private school because, as I mentioned, my family is quite wealthy. They don't want to be embarrassed to have a child that was not educated. So I went to a beautiful, well-respected private school where my life changed again because I met somebody who changed my life. Her name is Rebecca. Rebecca, my classmate, who was a scholarship student. Rebecca lived in this area. Very congested, very crowded, very packed with all of the things that we know happens when a person doesn't have everything that they need to live a life that is totally fulfilling. This is one of the places like what Rebecca lived in. They shared a room. Rebecca, her father, mother, brother, and sister, all 5 of them shared a room in a small apartment with 2 more families. And the front of the apartment was converted into a little sundry store to help bring in some income. But still, by the end of the month, Rebecca oftentimes had to go hungry because there just was not enough money to go to the end of the month. Now, my life was pretty tough, but I always had enough to eat. I could not understand why 2 working parents working full-time could not afford to feed their family. I was filled with outrage, and I was going to do something about it. But I was still 11 years old. How do you go from your dream, your purpose, to making a difference? So I had to figure out how to use this new thought in my head of why I was put on earth. My life purpose now was to make a difference in people's lives, people like Rebecca. Because the north point of your personal and company compass is what is your life passion. My passion was to make a positive difference. And that is what is going to help you navigate towards your goals and help you adjust and leverage the changing environment. So what does that mean? I always had this giant purpose, but I didn't know how to go about it because my family didn't speak to me very much. I grew up kind of alone in my own weird way with all these people around me. But I had a reference point, and you have a reference point too, and that determines your life. My reference point, since I grew up a long time ago, way before the internet, what I had to learn was my reference point made the difference, and it was National Geographic. I used to read those magazines and look at the lives of the people in those magazines. And a lot of them were from Africa. And they looked like they needed help with both feeding themselves and running their government, because both seemed to be in need of some positive support. So I made a decision at age 11, I was going to transform the lives of these people who needed help. I was going to make a difference in the lives of people in Africa. I was going to grow up and work for WHO, World Health Organization, helping people in Africa. Now you might think, how can a person have such a big goal when they're given nothing and told they're worth nothing? It's because if you take the same situation and reverse it and say, what if they expect nothing of me, what can I do to transform that? Because I cannot fail. I am already, nothing expected me. I can only get better than that. So I went to Oregon halfway through high school, taking early acceptance, and did my undergraduate and graduate there, working part-time jobs and struggling through, but I had my purpose and my goal. Your life purpose makes you feel happy and at peace. It makes you feel fulfilled. It makes you know what you want to be remembered for. It fulfills your dream. And you have to ask yourself, is your work now fulfilling your life purpose? Because this is how you move forward and how you're committed to participating and contributing to where you are at this moment in time. If not, what are you going to do about it? So let's define your life purpose. And after you define it, you have to research and make it actionable, as I did. Taking some concept and making it so that it's livable and actionable and taking the steps to achieve it. Then follow through. And then with that, you have to keep assessing the course along the way because nothing stays the same. But you have to adjust knowing what it is that you have to move forward on each step. Because for sure, you will have obstacles along the way. I'm going to share a couple of stories from my time in Reebok. I accepted the position to be president of Reebok Apparel Retail and Apparel and Retail Group. I did not know as much about sports as I do now, and I wasn't as interested. But now I know I'm taking on a position that I need to know everything about sports, and I have to love it. Don't look at that as an obstacle. Don't look at that as an opportunity to grow and to learn. So I subscribed to Sports Illustrated. I read all the sports pages. I even joined the sports pool at work because you're going to have to adapt and move forward with what it is that you have in your core, your life determination and your purpose and how to make a difference. Because in that position, I helped change the labor standards in all the countries we had apparel manufacturers. Because if you have a position, if you have purpose, you can make a difference. So use what you've got to get what you want, because you already have inside of you all you need to get what you want. Just remember, you have the determination, you have the energy, and you have your purpose. With that, you can achieve whatever it is that you want. And I'm here to support you in every way. Good luck, and thank you for being here.
Hey, y'all.
Hi.
Hello.
We hope you've been enjoying the programming so far.
I know. I think I think they were all so good. Marilyn just shared something very beautiful. What a beautiful story. And Jonathan's segment was so powerful. What did you think about that, Ashley?
Oh my God. Incredible. Incredible. So fortunate to have such amazing speakers joining us and really talking about women empowerment. So it's been great.
Exactly. And we have a little surprise for you. We have something, we're going to be broadcasting a documentary called Women and Men. And it was produced and directed by Frédéric Bedos, a French journalist, a former journalist. And she's the founder of Live Country Imagine. We have that information right there. And it has been a show screened at many incredible festivals, including the UN headquarters. And it took 2 years to make, actually, and 1 year filming and 1 year post-production. So we have that coming up in about an hour and a half, right, Ashley?
Yes, give or take. So we would love for you all to join us at www.powerwomen.info. Meet us there and we can watch the documentary together.
Yes, because we won't be able to broadcast it on Facebook because it's a special movie that you only get a special access, so we cannot put it on Facebook. So you will have to hop off Facebook and join us at, like Ashley said, www.powerofwomen.info.
It's coming right up. Thank you all.
Yes, and hey, we have a little announcement. We're gonna be doing a Zoom room, right?
Yes, later on today, within a couple of hours, we will be opening up some Zoom spaces. So you can all join and we can have a great conversation and hold space for each other.
Exactly. And I think it's going to be really fun because, I mean, you can all meet each other, first of all, and then kind of review the polling questions that we have been throwing at you all. We saw some of the results, very interesting. So I think that's the point of discussion. And yeah, join us. And we will be posting the link For any updates, please go to our website, our main website. That's where all the latest updates will be. And follow us on social media on Instagram and Facebook at powerofwomen.info. And you will find the latest things that's going on. And yeah, so we'll see you soon.
Yes, enjoy the documentary.
I've lost my voice.
We need to get some. What do you
I
say?
haven't slept.